Hey there, welcome to another episode of Rough Rants. I'm your host, Preston, and today we'll be talking about the Power Rangers series Beast Morphers. I actually started this when it first started getting put onto Netflix a while back, and then they just recently released the full episode list on there, so I decided to go back and finish it off. This is just going to be my general review of the series as a whole. I'm not going to go over it episode by episode because I really don't want to be perfectly honest. If you've been watching my Dino Fury episodes, like I said in those videos, I'm not super versed in the lore behind Power Rangers. I know I would say more than your average viewer, but I don't know every single little detail. So excuse me if I accidentally assume something differently or I don't point out this specific MacGuffin or item or what have you from a previous series. But this is just going to be my general review and thoughts on the series as a whole of Beast Morphers. Just off the bat, I'm going to say it now. Was not a fan of this particular season. Definitely one of the weaker ones. I won't say it's the worst. I'd probably say Overdrive. I haven't actually seen Overdrive. I've only seen bits and pieces and saw this and this from various sources, but I can probably safely say that Overdrive is worse than Beast Morphers. The problem with Beast Morphers is it doesn't feel like it's not bad, but it's not good either. It feels, the best way I can describe it is like someone took all the elements from the general description of what makes a Power Ranger series and they put it into like an algorithm, and the algorithm then created the story because it feels really artificial and almost lazy at times. It's weird. It doesn't feel genuine. As I describe the series and go into further details, you'll kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. I mean, of course, you can't get 100% of what I'm saying unless you actually see the series. But full spoilers ahead for the entirety of the series. The show is about basically, I don't think it's the future, or if it's the future, it's like not too far off future kind of thing. There are like future-esque contraptions here and there, like there's video game systems that make hard light holograms, so holograms that can literally interact with the physical world, which seems really dangerous, but whatever. I think there was a couple hoverboards here and there, maybe. I know they did a BMX episode. So we're a little bit into the future, I think. Again, nothing like super into the future, like there's flying cars like SPD or anything like that. So just a little into the future. But the basic plot is basically basic, which it is. The people of this town, this city, have created a new power source, and they were able to create it via tapping into the morphing grid. And for the people that aren't 100% versed on Power Rangers, the morphing grid is the basic power source of the Rangers that they can tap into and can morph. So someone figured out how to tap into it and convert it into energy. And the energy is called Morph X. And they've created towers, and it's apparently really powerful, and it's pretty green, so a lot of people are all for it. But just in case, this government division called Grid Battle Force has been created, and to help combat threats, just in case they pop up. So that's the basic setup for the setting. I believe the city is called Coral Grove. Fairly certain, not 100% sure on that one. I don't care enough to look it up. I did write notes, so with certain names and whatnot, I will go into, but for the most part, a lot of these elements are just kind of like, yep, they're there. But, so Grid Battle Force is made. The mayor of Coral Grove is kind of the one who is really gung-ho about getting as many Morph X towers, as they're called, the things that siphon out the energy from the morphing grid, erected. He's all gung-ho for it. He has a son named Devin, and they go to Grid Battle Force as just kind of a political inspection kind of looking thing. Nothing really major there. But they both go, the mayor and Devin, and we meet some of the other characters. There is a laundry service lady who is called Zoe. We meet Ravi, who is the son of the commander of the Grid Battle Force. I guess you could call her a co-worker. Let's call her a fellow cadet named Roxy. Ravi and Roxy are actually dating, but they're dating in secret because it's against the rules for two individuals to date here. We meet Blaze, who's kind of a Chad. He's very like, yeah, I'm the best kind of thing. And him and Devin meet up and kind of interact a little bit. And he's kind of a douche. We meet Nate, who's like a teenage scientist, savant kind of person. And then we meet probably my two least favorite characters of the entire series, Betty and Ben. I actually remember their name. They're pretty terrible. This kind of goes back to that algorithm type thing. They are supposed to be kind of like the Bulk and Skull type characters, but they kind of forgot to put anything charming about them into these characters. So they're just bumbling characters for the sake of bumbling. And what makes it even worse for these characters is they're part of a government agency, and they routinely screw up to the point of like they should be fired and kicked out and should not be put in charge of literally anything. But all the other characters are just kind of like, oh, Betty and Ben, there they go again. Oh, them. They're going to get someone killed someday, but we don't care. They are terrible. And like I said, there's nothing charming about them or interesting. Like a lot of the other characters that kind of fit this archetype, they usually have something else to go along with it. Usually it's like they're kind of the bully characters, and then through the course of the season or the series or whatever you want to call it, they develop a little bit and show that they're not just bullies, that they do genuinely care. The problem with these characters is they don't have that. They're just bumbling idiots who are already just like, yeah, we want to help out as best we can. But they don't grow. They don't get better. It's not like there's an episode where like, oh man, if it wasn't for Ben and Betty, we'd be screwed. It's like, oh man, if it wasn't for Ben and Betty, we would have been 2 minutes short of broadcasting time, I guess. They're completely superfluous characters, and I hate them. I might go a little bit more into detail with them, but honestly, I just kind of gave you everything about them. But anyway, they're there. They're bumblers. That's all they are. And we learned that the only reason why they are in Grid Battle Force is because their dad is like the head general guy. So they are literally here only due to nepotism. That's it. But they're there. And what's happening today when the mayor is doing like the little inspection thing is they're actually about to make some rangers. They have this DNA splicer thing that's going to splice the DNA of 3 rangers that they're going to make to help, to have ready to go for, I guess, security, stuff like that. There's not really a threat at this point. It's just more or less just them wanting to have the Rangers ready to go. I get that to a degree. I mean, it's kind of like SPD where it's just like they're basically cops. These are kind of the same idea, I guess, just kind of like government agents. But the 3 Rangers that they're going to make are Ravi, Roxy, and Blaze. They're going to be our 3 Rangers. Well, they are supposed to be our 3 Rangers. They go to the gene splicer, which I think is hilarious too. Because it's just like, yeah, we're gonna shove animal DNA into you, and that's gonna make your Rangers. And I'm just like, I would not be cool with that. Like, haven't you guys ever seen The Fly? This is like how you get some Cronenberg stuff up in here. But they're like, no, it'll be fine. So they all go, and they're about to get gene spliced when all of a sudden this random virus thing appears and attacks. It attacks like the gene splicer itself almost. And it takes the form of a snake. It's a CGI techno snake, and it calls itself Evox. And it, bellows out what it's going to do. He basically says that he's going to try to take over the morphing grid. That's his whole objective. And when he attacks, he ends up getting into like the gene splicer thing. Roxy and Blaze are already in there, and Ravi is able to get away in time, but Roxy and Blaze get corrupted, I guess, by Evox. He is a computer virus. And he ends up corrupting the DNA splicer. And what ends up happening is Roxy and Blaze end up basically in a coma. And I guess their spirit or their life force, something like that, is taken and converted into evil avatars, which are basically just evil versions of Blaze and Roxy. But like they're made out of data, I guess, because they kind of like shimmer a little bit with like purple energy to represent that. But they are basically Evox generals for this season. However, luckily Nate is able to kind of block off Evox before he can get into the morphing grid, and Evil Roxy and Blaze start attacking. And from this point forward, whenever I speak of Roxy or Blaze, I am referring to the evil versions, because the other 2 are, again, basically in a coma at this point. So the good ones don't really play a part in anything. But they start to attack. Ravi is able to get into the morphing DNA splicer thing. And they make it to where Evox can't corrupt him either. He gets hit with the gene splicer, and he gets spliced with the power of a gorilla, and becomes the Blue Ranger. And Devin is there, and when all this is happening, the alarms are going off, everyone's running away. However, Zoe notices this, and she's like, yeah, I'm not just going to be the laundry person. I'm going to go and, help out. She runs over to where this is all happening. also fights. And her and Devin end up getting into the gene splicer as well. Devin getting spliced with the power of a cheetah, gaining and becoming the Red Ranger, and Zoe getting spliced with a rabbit and getting the power of the Yellow Ranger. So they are able to fend off Roxy and Blaze. And Nate is able to open up basically a portal to another dimension. And he shoves, and they're able to, I wouldn't really say shove, download, force, I guess. They're able to force Evox into that other dimension with evil Roxy and Blaze, or just Roxy and Blaze, like I said. And they're in the other dimension. And they close it up, so they're trapped in there. And it's established that they know that Evox will probably come back from this or do something. So Grid Battle Force is basically like, hey, Devin, Zoe, you are your Rangers now, so you're going to be working for us. We need your help, and we know this is going to be the end of the threat. So they're like, okay. So they're totally into being Rangers. They're perfectly fine with it. By the way, Devin's dad, the mayor, he did not see Devin become the Red Ranger. He kind of he left at that point. Devin really wasn't supposed to be there, but he snuck in. But it's kind of irrelevant. He's just the Red Ranger at this point. Anyway, in the other dimension, Evox, Roxy, and Blaze meet a random character who, honestly, if it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't have a series, named Scrozzle. He's like this robot junk lord type of looking guy. He says that he is the ruler of this dimension, and the dimension just looks like a blasted out cityscape kind of thing. But he says he's the ruler, but Evox just shows up and is just like, I'm Evox, and he immediately just like, oh, well, I'm going to serve you now. So, yeah, some ruler. But Scrozzle is the Tinkerer type character. His whole deal is he's the villain's technology guy. He's really, again, the only reason why they're able to do anything, because he's the one who gets sends in is able to teleport them back to the real world, for one thing. And he creates the giant robots that basically the giant monsters for the Rangers to fight, called Gigadrones. And again, he's more or less, if it wasn't for him, the villains wouldn't really be able to do anything. So that's where the villains are at this point. And after that, it's pretty mundane. Most of the episodes until really the season, like the middle part and the end part of the season, at least the first season, or first half of the series at least. They just kind of bum around. Roxy and Blaze will show up, and the way they make monsters is they basically take a evil USB drive, shove it into an object. It infects the object with the Evox virus, turning it into a monster. One thing I do kind of like is that Scrozzle can make the Gigadrones and teleport them in before the monster is defeated. So it's I kind of like that to a degree, where it's just like, sometimes they'll use the monster to distract from what they're doing, or use it to impede the other Rangers from helping out, and one of the other Rangers has to go and stop the Gigadrone from destroying the city. But the problem is that a lot of times Devin just kind of does everything, it feels like Zoe and Ravi are fighting the monster, and then Devin has to go and in his Zord defeat the Gigadrone, and this just kind of keeps doing that over and over again. And a lot of time it's Devin who ends up even killing the smaller monster. So I kind of feel like Devin definitely got the lion's share of doing stuff. So I kind of am annoyed by that a little bit. But again, for the most part, it's kind of the same thing over and over again. Roxy, monster of the week formula, but it doesn't really do much to really progress the story. The only thing that we get that helps with that aspect is Blaze and Roxy are put in like these life support chambers, and Nate tells the other Rangers, hey, we need to defeat the evil avatars to revive them. But that's about it for them. And then the main thing that Evox is trying to do at this point is he needs to get back to the real world, and he can only do that for some reason if he has a body. Not 100% sure on why that is, but yeah, he's just like, yeah, I need a body. So that's kind of the driving force they have, the villains, is that they need to get a lot of Morphex so they can power up and build their technology and to get and to make a body for Evox. But that's about it. The other aspects at this point is that Nate has built these really annoying toys. Let's just be real here. They are toys. They're the beast. They're not beast morphers, but beast bot. Yeah, beast bots. I think they're called beast bots. They are 3 different animal robot sidekicks for each individual ranger. I can't remember their names. I don't really want to remember their names because they're very boring. There's the cheetah one who's like also a motorcycle. He's just kind of timid, sort of. And he's very like, I want to be your friend, but that's about it. The gorilla one is a truck too, and he's just the big kind of dumb, I'm a gorilla. He's just like, yeah, we're friends, Ravi. Like that. That's all he is. The rabbit, I would say, has the most personality, but that's because he has like a Brooklyn accent. Kind of sounds like Joey Wheeler to a degree. I'm not going to do the accent because I'm not very good at it, but he's just kind of like, he's also just kind of a their character, but that's another issue is just like you have these their characters, but the main characters act like, oh man, if it wasn't for you guys, I don't know what we would do. And it's just like, you would be exactly where you are. Like the only thing that these guys do for you is that they help you use the Zords. That's it. Like they have to use, like the B spots will fuse with the Zords and like they're the control console basically. Other than that, they don't really do much. They do a little bit more down the road. I'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, they're very annoying. They're very one note and they're toys. So yeah, that's probably all I'm about to say about them. Anyway, about halfway through the first part, Nate is kidnapped. Oh, and one other thing before I get into that. Another aspect that is just kind of there, but not really, doesn't really matter, is the 3 Rangers, because they got DNA spliced, this is how they have their civilian powers to a degree. I don't know if I can call them civilian powers. For the people that are not in the know, civilian powers are typically the characters, when they're not morphed, will have superpowers that'll allow them to fight, the grunts, but they don't really use them typically when they're morphed. In this one, they actually do. So I kind of like that. I guess it's better because it's not just like, oh, hey, here's a superpower that they will never use in the actual fight when they're morphed. It's only for when they're, just regular people. But they do use their powers when they are morphed. So I guess I'll give them props for that. Devin, Cheetah, obviously has super speed. Zoe has the ability to jump really high. She has like a super jump. which is kind of irrelevant because most of the other characters most of the other Rangers can jump really high too. So it's just kind of like, yeah, you have an ability, but it's really not that special. And Ravi has super strength. He can't. He has to turn it on basically. Like you'll see him like flex and his bicep will get huge, and then he can hit harder and throw stuff. But they all have drawbacks from this. Although again, like other than like an episode here and there, really just one episode basically each. The drawbacks don't matter. Honestly, Ravi is the only one who has the most significant drawback, and that's probably because it would make sense why they would need to temper that. Basically, Zoe has to eat carrots a lot. Devin, if he sees a dog, literally freezes up and cannot move. And Ravi, if he uses his heat or if he uses his strength too much, he overheats. That's their weaknesses from the attributes of being fused with a animal. But that's about it with that. But about halfway through the first part, Nate is kidnapped by Roxy and Blaze, and they force him to make a robot body for Evox. And they make like a dimensional gate that will allow Evox to come back to the real world and possess the robot. While he's making it, though, Nate is making another morpher, and he's using DNA from a scarab and a mantis, and he's going to try to make a morpher for himself and become a Power Ranger. The other Rangers show up. They try to defeat the villains before they're able to accomplish their plans. However, Nate is able to kind of turn the table. The way the device that he built works is basically like the same thing with the other Rangers, where it'll fuse their DNA, kind of. So he turns it on, runs over to where the robot body he made is, and he puts in the mantis and scarab DNA into the scanner. It then beams it down, and him and the robot get exposed to that DNA. And what ends up happening is Nate becomes a Ranger. He becomes the Gold Ranger. And the robot actually comes to life. He is called Steel. Steel is probably my favorite character in the series. I'll go into more detail about him probably at the end. But he comes to life, and he becomes the Silver Ranger, gaining the power of the Scarab. And he's able to, and he has like a personality, and he's considered alive because when Nate went over there, Steel wasn't only given the DNA of the Scarab, he was also given the DNA of Nate. So that also makes him part human slightly. And he refers to Nate as his brother because he's got his DNA in him. And it's funny because Nate immediately is just like, yeah, you're my brother now. We're totes brothers, brother. Like, I don't care if like he has a connection with him and like that's progresses, but this is again another issue with this way this series is set up, is that a lot of the stuff is just kind of like set up, but it's already done when it's already presented. Like, oh, hey, we have this robot character who shows up and he's got the DNA of, Nate, and he refers to him as like their siblings. You can make a story out of that and have it, progress through the season for the series. But, it's like, oh, Nate is open to him, but doesn't refer to him as a brother. And then as this, the series goes on, he gets closer and closer to Steel. And then by the end, they consider each other brothers. But in this one, it's just immediately like, oh, hey, you have my DNA in you? Yeah, we are brothers. Cool. But they're able to defeat the villains. They destroy the bridge, kind of. That was the portal to the other dimension where Evox was. They're able to... I guess they don't really destroy it. I guess it would be more accurate to say they disable it. But the villains retreat back to the other dimension, and Steel and Nate are now the new set of Rangers. It's actually really funny. I do not know why they did this. It's so obvious that Nate is not a mantis. I am fairly certain he is supposed to be like a Hercules beetle because his outfit is gold. Like, that's fine. It's whatever. But he has his ranger outfit has a horn, and it looks like a Hercules beetle horn, kind of. And when he gets into his Zord, he refers to it as the Mantis Zord. But when it transforms into like its beast robot form, it's clearly a Hercules-esque beetle. So it's just like, why are you referring to this thing as a mantis? Why? And wouldn't it have made more sense to just call him, just as another beetle, to really hammer in the fact that him and Steel are connected? It's like, I'm pretty certain that a scarab is a type of beetle, but I don't get it. I don't get why the execs were like, no, it's got to be a mantis. We can't have two beetles. That'd be dumb. But anyway, so yeah, they're now part of the team. And then it just kind of goes back to that, what I was talking about. Nothing really happens all that much until really the end of the first part. Only other thing is that Nate and Zoe kind of end up starting to date in secret. They didn't really establish them as liking each other. There was kind of an episode where Nate got Zoe Valentine's flowers, but it was kind of felt more like friendship kind of thing. Like, oh, I feel sorry for you that you're feeling bummed. Here's some flowers to make you feel better. But no, apparently Zoe totes likes Nate. And it's actually kind of creepy when they establish this, because Nate and her end up going to a movie together. Like, Nate is going to this like cheesy sci-fi movie, and then Zoe also is there, and they're just like, oh, it's a coincidence. And then they basically go on a date, but then it's later revealed that no, Zoe didn't just go there. She purposefully went there. She was basically stalking Nate and used it as an excuse to go on a date with him. And I'm just like, if the sexes were reversed on this would be really creepy, because it is really creepy. But yeah, after that, they're just like, oh yeah, we're going to be a couple. And again, it's one of those things where it's just like nothing really comes from it. Like, they don't except for two other episodes in total after that. What ends up happening, again, they're like, oh, okay, we got to keep it in secret because Rangers can't date. And that's about it. That's another plot element. And then after that, we get basically really towards the end of the first part. Towards the end, there's another character who shows up called, I think it was like Gargoyle, something like that. Like, it sounds like Gargoyle, but like something like that. I thought he was going to be another general type character. He was a character who Scrozzle had built a while back to help him find the Fury Stones. And when he found them, the Fury Stones corrupted Gargoyle. I'm just gonna call him Gargoyle. I wrote his name. I actually did write his name, so let me see, because I thought blah 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 Mantis. Nope. Okay, here we go. Okay, I thought I wrote his name down. I guess I didn't. Oh, there we go. Varguile. Yeah, he shows up. I actually kind of like his design. He's a robot, and like he has like these kind of like dreadlock-esque cords. They kind of look like bandoliers of bullets almost, and like half of his face is just kind of blank, and the other half has like sketches of eyes on him. He looks interesting, and he establishes himself as being powerful. He's able to fight off Roxy and Blaze fairly easy. Like, basically he just shows up and pushes them on the ground. They're like, hey, that's not nice. But I thought he was going to be another general, but he's really not. He ends up showing up, and the Fury Stones were established like an episode right before he shows up, and they are so pointless. Like, I do not even get why they introduced these things. The way they work is like, oh yeah, they're supposed to be really powerful. Scrozzle gives them to Roxy and Blaze and says, and there's like only 5 of them, and they say, hey, and he tells them like, hey, if you put this on one of the monsters, they'll get beefed up. She does that. Roxy does that, but she also tries to power it up again. But Devin is able to get one of the Fury Stones away from her very easily. And he gives it to Nate. Nate looks at it and is able to make a new weapon from it. And it's the... I can't remember the name of it. I think it's called... yeah, basically it's Fury Mode. He gives it to Devin, and it powers him up. I thought this was actually going to be the Battleizer. Like, it takes the form of, like, it's just basically a chest plate and some, like, arm guards, basically. And actually, when he first uses it, I thought it was really funny. He ends up fighting Gargoyle, and Gargoyle and the enemy monster, and Devin is really powerful. And there's a bit where the monster hits Devin and he goes flying into the air, but then he just like stops and then just goes like, nope, and just comes floating back down to attack. And it's hilarious because he doesn't have like jets or anything to stop his momentum in the air. He just literally says nope to physics and then just floats back down into the fight. But yeah, I thought those were going to be basically the new Battleizer type things. They're not. Literally after Gargoyle shows up, it's established that the Fury Stones, if you keep using them, they make you evil. That's why Gargoyle went back or stopped listening to Scroggle. And their new plan, the villain's plans, is now to keep giving Devin the Fury Stones because they'll make him more evil. And they try to show that he's becoming corrupt and evil, but they do a really bad job at it. Like, he's at the mall and then this robber runs out of the mall and steals a car and is running away, and Devin morphs and goes after him, and using the power of the Fury Stone, he's able to pick up the car, and he's just holding the car, and the cops show up, and Devin is just like, hey, I caught the bad guy, and the cop is acting like he's about to murder everyone. And he's just like, whoa, dude, like, put the car down, like, we don't want any trouble. And I'm just like, he caught the bad guy. Why are you acting like that? If they wanted to establish that he was becoming bad, like, you could have had him like take the guy out of the car and like wring his neck, like, kind of get rough with him, or like act like he's about to crush the car or something. But no, he just picks up the car and is just like, hey, I caught the bad guy. And apparently that's totes evil, bro. I think another one was he got like angry that people weren't doing their job correctly, which again, that's not evil. Like, I get that. Like, why he would be frustrated. So it's just like, your definition of evil is nothing. But yeah, so that's the villain's plan, is they're going to keep giving him the Fury Stones, hopefully turn him evil, but it doesn't work, of course. And then the Fury Stones are just completely dropped. They're not there anymore. We never see them again. Gargoyle is killed super easily. He's actually pretty competent. He actually comes up with a few plans that actually more or less work. But Roxy and Blaze do not like him, and they basically let him die. So Gargoyle is dead. And what ends up happening after that, there's a couple other things, but I'll get back to those in the character descriptions. Let's see here. Okay, so we're there. What ends up happening after that is we're basically at the end of the first part. Evox has... basically stolen these teleporter pods thanks to Gargoyle's plan, and they're planning to use the teleporters to teleport an entire MorphX tower into the other dimension, so they have like all that power. So that's their plan. And while they were getting these teleporters, Roxy sabotaged good Roxy's life support pod thing, so now she's going to start to die unless they are able to destroy evil Roxy in time. And Ravi is like super hell-bent on destroying evil Roxy because, you know, him and Roxy were dating. And he ends up, basically what ends up happening is because of him, the villains are able to get away with the teleporters, and he is able to destroy evil Roxy, which you would think would kind of scar him, because what ends up happening is Roxy and Blaze can transform kind of into more monstrous forms to a degree. Honestly, I kind of liked how they handled Blaze better, because the way Blaze transforms is he looks kind of like an evil ranger. Like he has like a snake. He kind of looks like a ranger outfit. He's more of a maroon color, but the design is that of a snake. So like Evox. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I thought they were going to kind of do something with that with Roxy, but no, she kind of just becomes like a standard monster, which I don't really get. It doesn't look terrible, but it's just kind of like, eh. But that's how they transform. And Ravi fights evil Roxy and gets her to the point where she de-transforms. So now she's back into her regular looking Roxy form. And he's able to destroy her. And she blows up. Like, she literally screams in agony almost. And just like, no! And then blows up. And I'm just like, wouldn't that be traumatizing for you? Like, I get that she's the evil counterpart, but you still essentially killed your girlfriend, bro. But no, evil Roxy blows up. Good Roxy does not wake up, though, for some reason. But she ends up waking up like basically when it's too late. The Blaze is able to get the teleporters into position and teleports the MorphX tower, and then for some reason Roxy then wakes up after that and is like, oh hey, I'm awake now. Oh, I've got information. Yeah, you're too late. Like, thanks Roxy, you couldn't have come out of your coma a little bit faster. Like, it didn't really make sense that she didn't get better and then got better. But so Evox has got the MorphX tower, so he's got all the energy he needs. Roxy is awake, and the Rangers need to go stop Evox before he's able to come back to the real world and basically kill everyone. What he ends up doing, so what ends up happening is they are able to use that broken teleporter that they were using initially to get Evox into Steel's body. They fix it, and they're able to get it to open up to the dimension where Evox is hiding out in. And Devin's father, the mayor, finds out that Devin is the Red Ranger, and he ends up coming to Grid Battle Force, and Devin is captured by Blaze when they were teleporting the Morphex tower. So when he goes to the Grid Battle Force, he ends up jumping through the dimension. This helps them lock into the signal and be able to stabilize the portal. And what ends up happening is he ends up helping free Devin. The other Rangers are able to go into the battlefield, the other dimension. And then Evox was able to make a new body for himself. And honestly, I'm not a fan of his body that he ends up making. It's like his body is okay, but his head looks kind of weird. It's very bulky. And the head has this like triangular, it looks almost like it would be a collar, but like instead of like this, like it goes behind the neck, it like kind of forms his head, and it's like this skull kind of thing. Like it looks like it could have been better if they would have positioned the triangular part better. It just looks like kind of like he has a Dorito for a head, an extra spicy Dorito. But he ends up so he's got a new body. He's got all the Morphex he needs. The Rangers come to the new dimension, and they're able to bring all their Zords, and all the Zords combine into this super, I think the Super Battle Force Zord, I think it was called. It's not very interesting. It was kind of neat in their initial use of it, because what ends up happening is Scrozzle makes like 3 or 4 giant robots attack them, and they basically kill them in one move. So that was kind of cool. And it made sense in that part where it's like, oh, they're attacking with multiple robots because they're able to send them all in at once, more or less, because they don't have to expend energy to do that. So that's kind of, because that's what my thought process was thinking of, like, okay, they can only send one giant robot at a time because they don't have enough power. That makes sense. But we'll soon find out that's not the case. But anyway, they end up destroying the giant monsters. But then Evox is able to get into his new body. And with his new body, he's able to easily defeat the Rangers. And he could kill them right then and there, but he does the villain thing and just basically goes like, yeah, I'm bored. I'm going to go and just going to go to the real world. Bye. So he ends up going to the real world. Like he gets into the scanner and starts to get scanned into the real world like one of the giant monsters. And the rest of the Rangers are just like, hey, we got to stop him. Basically all the Rangers except for Devin, because again, Devin does everything, go to disrupt the scanning process thing. Devin in his Zord that was conveniently not just damaged goes to the Morphex tower to destroy it, so that way they can't use the power. When he goes there, Blaze shows up in his own evil Zord. They have a little fight. He's able to Devin defeats him. There is a funny thing with Devin's Zord is that when his finishing move is like just a sword slash, but the way he does it is he summons a gun and then shoots. And that equates to a sword slash. What? Why? But, yeah, so he's able to destroy evil Blaze. He destroys the Morphex tower, which disrupts Evox from teleporting. And then he gets back to the portal with everyone else, and they escape. And that's about it for that part. They end up escaping. They think Evox is gone. They're happy. But then we get the not so subtle realization that Evox is inside the mayor somehow. Like, that's not explained. Like, we see the mayor, like, they're all kind of celebrating, and then the mayor looks down at his hand, and, like, it glows purple, and which is establishing that he is possessed by Evox, but I don't think he ever interacted with him at all. And like we didn't see like an energy flow out of Evox before he was blown up with everything else. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense why he was possessed or infected with the Evox virus, but nope, he's in the mare now. And that was the end of the first part. Okay, this video's been going on for a little bit of time. I'm going to split this up into 2 parts. So rejoin me for the second part of the rough rant of Power Rangers Beast Morphers that I will be releasing along with this one.